Recording there. Give me 1 second.
How are we doing, Stacy?
We are good.
Okay, you want to bring up the agenda?
Mandy should be bringing that up for you right now.
Go ahead, Mandy. If you bring up the agenda, we'll get started.
Mandy, do you have the page to that agenda? Okay, it's coming. Page 2. There we go.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Welcome everyone to the Sacramento branch 1060 here in Sacramento. We're glad you guys were able to get up this morning and join us. We have a lot of things to go over. My name is Ardell Lemon. I'm the first vice president of the Sacramento branch, and I'm officially calling this meeting to order at 10:05. You record that, Stacy. I'd appreciate it. I'll give you guys a chance to look over the agenda. We have a few action items. We have some real exciting information that's going to be in our town hall, so please hang around for that. Highlight, and everything is on this COVID vaccination, and our health department will be going into detail. They've done a great job on making everything happen, and I'm impressed. I got my first shot, and it went very smoothly. So I'm excited about being able to be a little bit more safer. So the agenda is pretty straightforward. If everybody's good, I'm going to entertain a motion that the agenda be approved and presented.
So moved. Ernest Owazia.
Second.
Ernest, okay.
Second, Roy Kaufman.
Okay, second.
Roy Kaufman.
Discussions.
Can we just add one thing, Ardell?
Thank you, Roy. Roy seconded.
Ardell,
Again?
this is Lynn.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure, is there a moment on the agenda just to update people about what happened on Wednesday?
Yes, it is. Well, we got a lot of things that happened Wednesday. What do you?
Well,
Since we
specifically,
talked about,
the jail expansion.
Oh.
If I could just amend it, it won't take long, maybe 1 or 2 minutes.
okay, all right, well, we'll get to that after we get down to our other items. Thank you, Lynn.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Roy seconded. Any discussions on the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carried. Also, just to let you guys know, I'm at the end of the internet. I'm in the country and my conversation might be a little bit delayed, and it might be delayed coming back to me. So just bear with me. If you hear something or I end up walking over someone, it's just because my internet out here is just doing the best that it can. Okay, with that being said, Stacy, if you would read the minutes.
Yes, I will. All right. Mandy, you want to put those minutes up so everyone can see them? Now let me see. All right, can everyone see that? See the minutes?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
I can see it.
All right. So good morning, and Greater Sacramento NAACP General Membership Minutes for Saturday, February 13, 2021 reads as call to order at 10 a.m. Approval of agenda was unanimous. Approval that the agenda was approved unanimously. Reading and approval of minutes by Secretary, moved by Pastor Banks, second by Valerie. Treasurer's report, Daphne in training, but was presented during executive committee and was approved. Report made available by anyone who so wanted to review. Action item, approval of 2021 budget. Vice President Ardell went through the proposal. Budget of projected income for the year of 2021, went over expenses. Total cost $147,000, still in need of around $47,000 to meet the needs of the organization. Motion entertained by Ardell to accept the budget as submitted. Motion so moved by Velma, second by Pastor Banks. Committee reports were received from President Betty, First Vice President Ardell, Third Vice President Velma, B. Scruggs, with the operating budget. Tijuana Barnes with the AXO, Tehran Irvin's Economic Chair, Tanisha Broadway Housing, Pastor Banks Faith Chair, LaMills Garrett Political Action, J. Yvonne Harivu for the prison, and Daphne Gauthier Profit and Loss Year End and Finance Report. President's overview, Vice President Ardell to highlight reports received, talked about MLK Caravan January 18th, which was phenomenal. January 23rd and 24th, we had our swearing in ceremony for the new officers sworn in by Senator Richard Penn and Dr. Shirley Weber, who is now the Secretary of State, and retreat and training to go over Robert Rules of Order and other training strategies to take this organization to the next level. January 29th, we had the California Hawaii Legacy Gala honoring Alice Huffman, talked about the Black Wealth event regarding generational wealth and home ownership. We went back to budget to vote to have a vote and 1 abstention from Norma Nelson. The motion was carried. Unfinished business was the prayer breakfast, which April 2nd will be happening up April 2nd, 2021. Pastor Banks is the lead on this project, held virtually. Asking for volunteers for this committee, looking at having a hybrid and a band. Rory Kaufman volunteered along with First Vice President Ardell, put out a call for membership, including lifetime members. Rory talked about the proposal door hanger idea around COVID outreach, advised only 2.8% of African Americans in California have taken the shot, as where other ethnic groups are at 32.6%, showing us at even a lower percentage than the Native Americans. Looking to be one of the key organizations taking the charge in outreach efforts. Velma brought up the concern for convenience and targeted areas for African Americans to have access to the vaccine. Pastor Banks advised there is a free clinic sponsored by the Sacramento County every Thursday and Saturday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 3805 Clay Street in Del Paso Heights. Third Vice President Velma also advised being done at Natomas High School as well. Pastor Banks also shared her experience of no side effects from getting her first vaccination or only vaccination, depending on which one she has chosen. Racial profile report is on our website, www.NAACPSAC.com. See our website for more information. Expulsion report is on our website as well. New business, town hall lynching and N-word discussion. Panelist was available, and the discussion, I didn't read everyone's name, that the reason NAACP even exists. The discussion was, we were being educated by President Betty about the reason or how NAACP even came about because of lynching. NAACP originated in 1916 in Sacramento due to the negative imagery in media outlets, as well as an enormous amount of African Americans being killed by hangings. NAACP has been in existence for 105 years. Talked about the word picnic. The word picnic came from French early in 1600s, so for social gatherings. Once it came to the United States, it became used for pick a Negro. Would accuse an African American man of some crime and celebrate killing him to keep other African Americans in their place. So we had our youth in college, President Jalil, talk about negative and traumatic events that has happened at high school and college campuses. Panelists for the N-word was, as you can see, one of the panelists, some of it, they talked about that word, N-word, sometimes stands in our culture, terms of endearment and respect to another brother. And so that was the topic on that. And then Betty did mention that it would be, we will be looking at bringing information and education around awareness, starting with our youth, with tools to help our parents as well to deal with those issues that our children may be having. Announcement, Black Wealth continues February 27th. Real estate development, housing and stocks. Sacramento Housing Redevelopment has assistance if you need help with your rent. Ken Flemings had an event announcement, Food for the Soul. That was February 24th from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and can check out the Jim Crow Museum. We adjourned at 12:15 p.m. And that is
All right, thank you very much for that reading, Stacey.
You're welcome.
With that being said, I entertain a motion that the minutes be approved as presented.
So move.
Who
right.
was that?
I will second the motion.
Roy with the motion.
I will
Okay,
second
Roy.
that. This is Pastor Banks.
Okay, that's
Pastor Banks.
Pastor Banks. Yes, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Please note that, Stacy, as we
Yes,
move
sir.
forward. Okay, we're gonna go into the treasurer's report. Is Shirley available?
Yes, I am. And the details for the treasury report. was
Okay, will
presented-
you,
Okay. The details of the treasurer's report was presented to the executive team and approved. Our finances are in the black and all bills are updated and paid. And if anyone would like a detailed report, they can email me at followbrown@aol.com.
all right, thank you. Okay, I entertain a motion that the treasurer's report be read as presented. Did you guys hear me? I entertain that the treasurer's report be approved as presented.
I'm so moved. Ernest Owazie.
Thank you, Ernest.
Second, Roy.
Thank you, Rory. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried.
Oof.
Okay, you want to put up the agenda again, just so they know where we are? Stacy or Mandy? Okay, we got 4 action items that we have to deal with so that we can move on. The first action item is the approval of the 2021 year-end report. I'm proud to say that we have filed our year-end report with National on time. We've made arrangements. We owe $750 to them, and you know, it took a little while. We're making transitions and stuff, making our accounting much stronger. And as we move forward, we're going to continue on. I mean, we've been raising money. People are really listening to us. 2021, I think, is really going to be a good year. So with the action item for the year-end report, I'm entertaining a motion that the year-end report be approved as it was presented.
I approve.
Second.
Okay, make sure, if you guys can say your name so that Stacy can be able to properly record it, I'd appreciate it.
That was Shirley Brown.
Roy Kaufman seconded.
Okay, Shirley. Okay, very good. You got that, Stacy?
Yes, sir.
Discussions. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, as we move along, we had an action item that was presented by Lynn, one of our executive members. And Lynn, I'm gonna ask you, can you hear me? Can you come online and explain that a little bit more? That action item? that you
Which,
presented.
was it one, was it the
It
one
was,
that about for the Asian community?
it was yes, it was solidarity to a Papa and a press release on no hate or violence against Asian Americans.
Yes, sir. So, basically what we've been seeing over the last, since coronavirus came on the scene, is we've been seeing an escalation in hate, a huge escalation in hate against our Asian brothers and sisters, because people, I mean, there's been seeding of hate because of the virus being, people being blamed. And what we're seeing is locally are a lot of people who are Asian are actually, there are hate incidents and also some hate crimes that have happened. And it was just an ask to say that we stand against hate, and we're here for you. That we understand hate, and we're not going to tolerate it. And it was just an action of solidarity to state that the NAACP will not tolerate hate.
Mm.
Very good. Thank you for elaborating on it. I agree with you. We do stand for that and solidarity, and hate against any minority or anyone really. We stand up for what is right. So with that being said, I'm going to entertain a motion to support of nonviolence against the Asians community. And also the letter of solidarity to a Papa and the press release.
Good morning, Ardell. This is Valerie. I'll make the motion to submit or issue a letter of solidarity to the or statement to the Asian community, and to stand up against the hate. And I think there was an additional piece of that I
Very good.
The additional
Very
piece
good.
is,
Thank you, Valerie.
I
I second
second
that, Ernest.
Malachi Smith.
Ernest, okay, Ernest seconded.
Can I make a quick, add a few comments to that?
Open
Yeah,
for
we're coming
question.
up for discussion. Go ahead, discussion.
I'm wondering if we can, in the letter, also refer them possible any resources NAACP has that could be available to any victims in terms of reporting in partnership.
Mm. Mm.
Okay, well, that's something that we can look at. But right now, what's on the floor is that we do make these motions, and that we are for, the solidarity, and this is to a Papa. So they will probably reach out to us, and we can further our conversation with that. Yes, but I'm for that. Any more discussions?
yes, this is Lynn.
All in favor?
Oh, can you hear me?
Lynn,
Hello?
you have discussion?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
I just
I'm
want
sorry. I just have
I just want to add.
yes, go ahead. I just have a delay in my recordings here.
Yes,
Continue.
sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just want to make sure that it's very clear. It's two parts. One part is to make a statement, a public statement. And the other part is to reach out to a Papa with a letter specific to a Papa, since we have worked together for so many years.
That is true.
And so so it's really two parts. One is a public statement, and one is a private outreach to a Papa specifically because of our long-term relationship.
I can support that. Okay.
Yes, and I
Okay.
can make a friendly amendment to the motion that I made to add the part about specifically reaching out to a Papa. Then that will cover both pieces, because I did intend to include that. I just was not able to articulate it well.
And that was also
Okay.
in keeping with my
No.
own thought on that. Mhm. Good, I
Okay.
support that as well.
Agree.
Okay.
Okay. Call for the question.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, the next item on is call to action, vaccine in my neighborhood. And I'm gonna ask our health chair to come on and just speak on a little bit of that so that we can just stay in tune to what's going on, and you can enlighten us a little more.
Vice President
Valerie?
Ardell,
Yes.
we skipped action item
Who's
D,
speaking?
the prayer breakfast budget. So
Malachi.
when we finish that, can we get back to that?
Oh, okay, so
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I skipped over that. But yes, thank you, Malachi, for bringing that to my attention.
and I'm fine. Do you
Okay.
want to go ahead and address the prayer breakfast, Ardell, or do you want me to do the?
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me on track. The prayer breakfast, we worked
Shoot.
2.5 hours on it yesterday, just really clarifying it. We spent, a lot of time on the prayer breakfast, and we have a budget of $6,100 allocated, and it looks like we're going to be well within our budget, and that's a great position for us because Pastor Porter reached out and made his facilities available, his media crew, his internet, and all their technology, which again is a blessing right now because again, this is uncharted territory and we're not sure, exactly how many people or if we're going to have more people, but we can have more now because of the virtual item. So it was a $6,100 item. So I'm entertaining a motion to approve the prayer breakfast budget as presented.
So move. Roy Kaufman.
I second it. Malachi Smith.
Okay. Discussions. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. All right. Okay, so now let's move down to our health department again. Valerie, if you would just enlighten us as you were getting ready to do before I had to backtrack there. So please, you're up.
No worries.
Hey,
All
hey,
good.
Valerie.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Our health committee has been working on a number of things. One, I just wanted to share that our health committee meetings are every third Thursday from 8 to 9 a.m. For those of you who might be interested in joining us, please reach out and we will get you connected into that. We've also been working on building our webpage so that it will have health resources and information that is credible for the community and is designed to reach people of color. And in that, we've also been working on a COVID vaccine in my neighborhood campaign. And we're going to hear more about that and more about COVID vaccines this afternoon from Dr. Bianca Roberts. But the initial idea was to make sure that people have access to vaccines. I know you've all been hearing in the news the disproportionate amount of African-Americans have not received the vaccine. So our plan is simply to continue as we always do in providing education, advocating for equity in health in our healthcare system. And so under this campaign, the plan was to set up a telephone process so that people can call and gain access to information on where vaccine clinics are in the community. And then also for us to work with other healthcare providers and organizations to actually provide vaccine clinics in neighborhoods where there are high numbers of people of color. And so we bring this action item before the committee to help ratify our role as continuing to just open access and to make sure that people have the information they need to make the decisions that are good for them about their health.
Great, thank you, Valerie. With that being said, I entertain a motion that the call to action, the vaccine in my neighborhood, be approved as presented.
Enthusiastically, I move that motion. Rory?
And I second it, Malachi Smith.
Discussions?
One quick comment, Mr. Chair, to Valerie, thank you very much for this.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
I tried to do the door hanger thing and it didn't work out, but the phone thing sounds actually sound more reasonable than my idea. So whatever we can do to help you get that phone bank going, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. Rory.
Yeah, Ernest, if I may, Ernest again, I definitely, like Brother Rory, thank you for moving this effort. It's very important. And in fact, we had a discussion last night with people from the Sacramento County Public Health and the Africa House folks on it. And one of the points that is made, exactly the same point in terms of the need for education, because we're finding out that even our folks in the healthcare, some of them are also hesitant. You know, some who were on the platform last night said they were kind of waiting for the next maybe discovery. We're not quite sure if that may happen. And the concern is now that it is available and it is free, we should do our level best to take advantage of it. Mike, there's a great concern that at some point it may no longer be free and it becomes a high-priced item. After especially the more privileged folks have already received it, that fear may no longer be there, the sense of urgency may no longer be there, and it will be our people, and that could become very pricey and maybe even become inaccessible. So all efforts should be geared towards that. The second point that I think was made, and this was a pitch to the Sacramento County Public Health, is to provide some resources for the education and of our people and mobilization and advocacy. I think Brother Kaufman and I kind of talked about that in terms of the door hangers. There is so much that we can do as volunteers unpaid, but if we're really going to do even better job, to the extent that there are resources out there to train, pay people to actually make it as a job, I think we should not lose sight of that. We should explore that opportunity as well. That's all I have for now. Thank you very much.
Great,
Thank you.
yeah, that's a good insight. I myself personally, I got my shot yesterday, and I'm a little stiff, but I'm feeling, I'm glad I was just able to get it, so I'm endorsing it and recommending it and say, hey, go get it, don't get sick, just I don't even want to talk about it. So any more discussions on that?
You have two hands raised, Vice President Ardell.
Okay, can Stacy, if you can see it, I'm looking over everything else.
Lauren?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I just got on, so I've missed the whole discussion. I apologize for that. And I'll have to leave early, but I wanted to really thank the NAACP for the outreach that you've done, the attention that you've brought to the underserved communities, as you always do. And Betty has been part of another group of folks who have been talking about how we get the vaccine out to our communities. I was just thinking, and I'm not an advertising person, but for those of us that have already had the shot and have our cards, we could do a little still with the card that could be put into a campaign. That could either be video or something else to say that it's safe and I'm glad that I did it. It's just an idea. I mean, I'm sure you've got and have talked about some other great ideas.
I love that idea, and that is something that we definitely want to do. So Lauren, I'm so glad that you shared that and have put that out there. It's going to be something that we asked for.
And since there are so many groups of African-American people in particular that are hounding our public county health officer, I know that they're doing they want to create an equity task force, and there was a separate group of us already harassing them about where they needed to go because we were telling them specifically the neighborhoods.
Right.
Now they're going to throw us all together, and we don't need 25 of us talking about what we need. We just need to get the work done. And we might also want to encourage them to get the money for the outreach has been stated. And Greg King and his outreach with our brothers and sisters that spend a lot of time on the street, those are the ones that are going to need to get the vaccine when it's available for their age group.
Yes, I
So I
agree.
think we should
Agreed.
all be on the same page about getting money for funding. And then as long as we give them a united front, we can talk about how we divvy up that money later. But if we have programs that we can identify right now, they'll have no excuse but to pay for some of this outreach. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Lauren,
Okay,
for that insight. There was another hand
yeah, it's
raised.
Laura.
Yes. Thank you, Valerie, for the team doing your team doing that. That's great. And 95823, where I live, the last I looked, had the highest were at the most risk for COVID. And it was very difficult for me at 68 to get a shot. I finally did. Kaiser finally opened up and I got one before you guys did the one over yesterday. Worked with when I forgot who it was, the councilwoman for the one at Meadowview. But I told a lot of people, and I don't know if they contacted people, but the bottom line is that everybody was thinking, what about us? So it's really good that NAACP and all the other organizations stepped up, and we just, made it clear that we want this shot, and we want, and Valerie, adding the education piece is very, very, very important. And I'm glad that you did that as well. I'm really proud of you guys. That's really super. The point I wanted to make was, I've been working a lot with the jail inmates, and my understanding from the chief that's over the correctional health, correctional health, adult correction for the Sacramento County Sheriff Department. My understanding from him is that only 40% of the inmates are taking the shots, and that was about 2 weeks ago, and they didn't understand why. They were looking into that, and then would try to figure out what the reason and the rhyme is, and then let us know as well. But I'm wondering if there's anything that we can do because whatever fear is on the outside is fear on the inside is too. Do you have any plans on working with that population?
So what I can tell you is that we are on a every other week meeting with the county and the city and other representatives. And we do go over what's happening in the jails. It's been something that Betty has really hammered in each time because we weren't getting a lot of information on COVID cases in the jails. And so I can actually bring that question back to them as how many people in the jails who are turning it down and why they're turning it down. That is not something that that I've heard thus far on those calls. It seemed like people were they were working on getting increasing access for them and dealing a lot with making sure that they isolate any inmates that do have COVID from others. But I think that's a great question, Laura, and I've written it down, so I will get back to you about that offline.
Thank you.
Hey,
Okay,
is there any more? I
Yes.
see, Lynn, you wanted to have discussion?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to support what Laura just said and also recognize that one of the big talking points in the county right now, and I understand, Valerie, and I'm glad that you are meeting with county officials. I think that's wonderful. And something that I've learned sadly is county officials are woefully out of touch with what's going on inside the jail. So what's happening is the information that's coming to county officials is coming directly from the people who are responsible for talking with the people who are inside, who are the tenants inside. And so the information is skewed. The tenants are never heard. The tenants themselves are never heard. So I would just really want to lift up what Laura is saying, is that this is like kind of a telephone game, is that by the end, the whole story has changed.
Mhm.
And so I
Okay,
really
thank you
think
for
we
that,
should
that
reach
input.
out.
Yes, I do want to.
Okay, if there's any more discussion, we need to kind of move on, because we have a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff we'll be able to talk about while we're in the town hall, which our health department is steering. So with that being said, all in favor?
Aye.
I forgot the
Aye.
motion.
Aye.
Aye. Mm.
I
Okay, opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carried. And again, thank you guys all for your input, and we'll have a lot more conversation, that you'll have a lot of Q&As in our town hall. Okay, I'm gonna go into the committee reports for time's sake and keep moving. I'm gonna highlight my vice president's report and kind of recapture. We just came out of Black History Month, and we had the opportunity to do a lot of different things. One of the things that was so exciting, and I think it needs to be revisited again, is the town hall and the lynching. I mean, it really got emotional when people started speaking out about lynching, and also about the N-word. So I think that warrants another town hall in itself to continue on. Again, Black Wealth Matters is something that's ongoing, and we're real excited about that. It keeps us educated and how to create that generational wealth. Mika and Lorraine did a great job on their platform in the credit boot camp last week, and it was clear on how to get on track with your credit and buying houses. Sitting in for Betty, I did some press conferences, and I spoke at a St. Francis conference where a blackface had sparked a major protest. I was impressed with the youth and how they organized. You know, their theme was enough is enough. So, you know, I spoke on behalf, and it's some things that we just will not tolerate, and put the board on notice that we would have them on our radar, because change is needed. But I was really impressed on how they came together. And I told them, you know, that you're our next senators, you're our next congressman, and you're probably our next vice president and president. So continue to keep going on, and we'll get behind you and support you. The youth conference was great. I mean, they had everybody on the Zoom, and James Brown and Deshauna Gray, they headed it up, and they did a wonderful job. And I just wanted to give a shout out to them in regards to that. Again, just as I move down, membership is real important. Please recruit, ask people to join. You know, they can do the $30 a year or do the lifetime memberships. I've been trying to shoot for a goal of a minimum of one lifetime member each month. So please keep that in mind, because we need to grow our organization now like anything else. As we move on, we're really excited about our prayer breakfast, and that's one of the things that's going to be new to us. And I think that something else is going to expand out of that, because we're going with the virtual advertisement, and people will be able to not only see and advertise in there, but more people of color will be able to advertise and continue to keep their names out there, because there's a lot of organizations that want to support minority companies and this, that, and that. So we want to really push forward on that. But that's pretty much on my report. Everybody's doing such a great job. We have let me see, a few minutes before we go into it, and we still have some unfinished business. But if any of our people have had their report, they just want to highlight a couple things that I might have missed, please do so. But don't be long. We're limited to time, and we must continue on. Okay, everybody's good? Okay, so we're gonna move on to our unfinished business, and the unfinished business really is the prayer breakfast, and we are asking any and everybody, please, go to our website. We on Eventbrite now. Stacy and Lorraine has done a great job of putting this thing together.
Indeed, yes, indeed.
We've got our speakers pretty much lined up now. We have the MCs lined up. We have our music lined up. It will be on April 2nd at Pastor Porter's church. And I'm just real excited about really making this thing really, really nice. I've seen how they can be done, but I want ours to be better than everyone else's. So please, we're going online. Call us. We'll stay in communications about how to get the sponsors, how to get your tickets, how to line your stuff up so that you can be able to get these tickets out there. Because our organization is an organization that thrives off of donations and sponsorship. So please, 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 let's increase our membership, and also let's really, really push the prayer breakfast. Okay, with that being said, if anyone has some unfinished business that they would like to bring to us at this time, please raise your hand and let's keep it going. I'm reading all my notes. Everything's coming in now. This is great. Yes. Okay, electronic hands. Anybody has anything that they want to discuss in our unfinished business area before we're going into our town hall at 11 o'clock. So we got a few minutes before we move forward. And if there's anything that I missed, please reel me in.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
The only thing I want to bring up, and I'll talk offline to the education committee, any concerns we have in opening up our schools, because that's going to drastically affect our students in terms of what SAC Unified, Elk Grove, or any other local districts will be doing to accommodate in-person learning. That's supposed to be happening next month. So I'd like to talk to the education community. Have we had any thoughts or ideas about? I did attend the Black Parallel School Board meeting. They're very much involved in trying to suggest ways in opening the schools and making sure our kids don't get left out. So that's the only comment I wanted to make. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Ardell,
Is there any other comments? Because I would like to get it. Yes, who is this?
this is Lynn.
Yeah.
There are three.
Yes, Lynn. Go ahead.
There are a few announcements. Are we at announcements yet? Sorry, I'm driving.
Oh God, Lynn.
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So if I just have a few. To Rory's point, there are 3 members of our executive committee who are also on the African American Advisory Board for Sac City Unified, and that is being discussed. So I just wanted to respond to that. Also,
Thank you.
2 other things. The NAACP wrote a joint report with the Justice to Jobs Coalition that's on the website. It was responding to the county's lack of scrutiny of the current programs that they're offering in our criminal justice area, and it points to their negligence in a very nice way. And then also the big news is that on Wednesday, this coalition, LaMills Garrett and Jaleel Baker, spoke on behalf of the NAACP at the County Board of Supervisor meeting to not expand the jail. Going into the meeting, the County Board of Supervisors were expected to vote in favor of the new jail annex to treat people who are seriously mentally ill, which would have been an expansion of our system. And we were able, our efforts with all of the other community members, Decarcerate Sacramento in particular, were able to sway their opinions, and the final result was 4-1 against expanding mass incarceration in Sacramento. So I think it's really important that everyone know that. It was a huge win. It was very unexpected, and super excited. Thank you.
Hey.
Great, great. Does anybody else have any announcements that they would like to make?
One additional announcement, Roy Kaufman, real quickly, Black Leadership Project will have their first Capitol open house next weekend, March 20th and 19th and 20th. I'll send the information out to all the members. This is where we're trying to get young people, and hopefully our youth council will be involved in legislative activities on the state and county and city level. So hopefully those of you can join us next weekend, and I'll make sure that hopefully get a copy of the flyer to register. We've got some good speakers talking about our current state of affairs with our state, county, and city politics, to be very candid about it, and what's getting ready to happen in the future. So thank you for that.
Okay, great. At this time, I'm gonna ask Valerie to come in. She's our health chair, to take us into the town hall.
Great, thank you, Ardell. So, you know, the COVID vaccine in my neighborhood campaign really has come together through the efforts of our president, Betty Williams, and the efforts of Dr. Bianca Roberts. You know, they really have rallied and mobilized our medical community and our leadership to begin addressing some of the issues that we know our community has. We know our community needs education about the vaccine. They have lots of questions and fears about how this vaccine came to be. And there's a lot of people out there spreading misinformation. So we want to make sure that they have credible information to make the best choice that's good for them. And that we're not making that choice for them, but that we're giving them the tools and ability to make those choices for themselves. But we also want to know, for those people who want it, they need to know when they can get it, when the tiers allow them to get it, where to go and get it, and how they keep themselves safe and their families safe, whether they have it or whether they haven't had it. And so we really want to be able to speak to those issues, how they can register. And we know many of the county systems and the healthcare systems have been developed around going online and doing things on the web, which really highlights our digital divide issues and our skill level issues if we have community members that cannot register online. So they're getting there late and finding out that all the vaccines are taken because they didn't have access to get to those things online. So that's where the idea of the phone number came from, and creating a phone line that actually is a triage line that really helps them to get access to those vaccines. And we also know that we just need continued access advocacy for equity in distribution throughout our communities. And then also, like in the jails, I wanted to add that Betty actually she called for an audit of the jails around COVID vaccination and COVID cases. And so details on that will be coming as well when we go back to that committee. But we are really thankful to have Dr. Bianca Roberts with us. She's a doctor in family medicine, and she is a native of Sacramento. So she grew up here, went away, got her education, and came back to serve our community. And I think that that is something that we have to commend her for, and commend those people who come back to the community that they serve. She's currently part of the Mercy Medical Group and is overseeing 4 clinics. She is in family medicine, occupational medicine, and the urgent care department chair. She's helping to advance health equity through the Sacramento Sierra Valley Medical Society. She's health equity chair there. She has a Bighorn family practice, and I'm pleased to say she's joined our NAACP Sacramento Health Committee. She led the compilation of more than 15 Black doctors, and I see that list growing and growing to increase access to the vaccine. And our first COVID vaccine in my neighborhood event was with Councilwoman Mai Vang this last Friday, March 12th. We were actually able to register 22 people to get vaccinated and to have those slots. And she's also connected us with Mercy clinics that are doing vaccines today, and got a registration number that we can refer people to. And there's also an event coming up March 20th and March 21st first with the California North State University of Pharmacy School. So she has been doing a lot of work to really make this a reality, both for the community and to bridge that bridge between the community and healthcare system. So I'm excited to have her here with us. We've asked her to come on and really talk about the COVID vaccine so that we can be educated and share this information about some of the common myths. And so she's going to talk about the COVID vaccine. Is it worth it? Let's have that dialogue. And so Dr. Bianca Roberts, I know I saw you here. I'm going to turn the mic over to you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for that very nice introduction. It's really an honor to be here, to be able to connect with the community. I know a lot of times when we and our physicians, we go off to medical school and it's just so busy in our practice, but our hearts are really, we desire to serve our community. That's why we decided to become doctors. So really excited about the collection of Black physicians that responded and will be attending in support of the NAACP today. Some of them are on call. Some of them have been working all day and all night, and they still think this is so important that they support the community. So they're making time for it. Right now, I think there are like 18 of us who will be available today, which is unheard of to get 18 physicians in one place. So really excited. I would like to share my screen if someone could allow me to be a host as well.
You're able to share now.
Awesome. Great. Can everyone see my slides here?
I can see it.
Yes, we
Awesome.
can see it.
Okay, and then let me move this here. Okay, so COVID vaccine, is it worth it? Let's talk about it. So you got to hear a little bit about me. I always like to include pictures of my family, my parents, my dad's Pastor Darrell Watson, and my mom, First Lady Teresa Watson at Emmanuel CME Church. And this is my immediate family, my husband, my nephew, my kids, and then also Brother Malachi Smith. He's my uncle. So I'm from here, you know, Sacramento. This is me. I'm part of this community. This is so important to me. Okay.
Amen.
So you may be thinking and wondering, you know, if you're going to get the vaccine and you're trying to figure out a time to sit down and talk to someone, your doctor, a nurse practitioner, health professional, someone. Finding that time can be a little difficult, but even still, you might start to see pictures of folks getting vaccines in their homes, in clinics, in churches, Black doctors showing their pictures on social media. The Madam Vice President got her vaccine. Our forever First Lady got her vaccine. And even this doctor right here who's talking to you, she got hers too. So, but the question is, you know, why? Why? Why should we get it, or why should we think about it at least? Or what information do you need to have to understand if it's a good decision for you? So today we're going to talk about real information about the COVID-19 vaccine, and I'm going to discuss how the vaccines work, and I will also address some common fears and concerns about the vaccine as well. So COVID update, it's been a whole year. We've been getting COVID updates pretty much every day. It's kind of overload, right? So many cases of COVID and lots of deaths. So right now in the United States alone, we're at 29 million cases. And in the past 7 days, I just pulled this information yesterday, there's been over 400,000 new cases. And total deaths from the United States alone has been over 500,000. So last year, when we were looking at, I'm just going to move this, sorry. When we were looking at the possibility of how many people we would expect to pass away from COVID over the next year, we estimated, or scientists estimated 240,000. which is more than the Civil War, less than World War II, but significantly more than 9/11. But as you saw on that previous slide, we're at 500, over 500,000. So we're getting up there right now with how many deaths there has been in the US alone. So, but even still, that's a lot of numbers, and sometimes we might tune it out, or maybe we still don't know anyone who's actually died from COVID. But why do doctors think it's such a big deal still? Well, it's because COVID, it really tortures patients and families in many ways. So we're going to talk about some of these ways that it causes additional problems, because it's not just about death rates. And that's one thing that I really want to share with you today. Things that I see as a primary care physician when folks have had COVID and they've recovered. What else can happen? So one is COVID long syndrome. There's a lot of people who have this. They've had COVID in December, several months ago, but they still feel like they have it. They're tired. They have abdominal pain. They get headaches, fatigue. Sometimes they feel short of breath. They don't really know why they're so tired. A lot of them have not been able to go back to work. They've missed work. They've run out of benefits. They don't have health insurance anymore because they're so tired and they can't work. And they ask me, well, what can we do about it? There's nothing. There's nothing that we know that can fix this condition. We think maybe time, and we hope time, but we're not sure. And then there's a lot of patients are also seeing lung damage. So this black area here on the CT scan, so this is when you have a CT scan, it looks up from the top. So this is like an X-ray taken from the top. And the black areas are normal lung areas. But when we look at CT scans of patients that have had COVID, it shows there's like lots of dead parts of their lungs. So, or we call it fibrotic, because this part of the lung doesn't work anymore. And I've seen a couple of cases now of healthy folks who had COVID, even they were in their 30s or so, and they had COVID, they recovered from COVID, but now they're waiting for a lung transplant. And it's hard to say who this will happen to. We don't know, but randomly we're seeing this happen. And then other people who are not as severe as some of those, they have reduced lung function. So they still feel short of breath. And I have a lot of people who are now on oxygen. So they have to carry an oxygen tank now everywhere they go, which is not an easy task. There's this thing called brain fog, where people are experiencing symptoms of like dementia. They feel confused, having a hard time staying focused. We don't really fully understand how long that will last or if it will ever get better. And just overall, we're seeing in our brain scans that the brains are showing some damage, severe nerve damage for some of the people who have had COVID. And neurologists don't expect this to improve for those people. There's some people that will never get their sense of smell back, or they still have lost taste, or they have nerve pain that can't be explained. And it's not going to get better. We're seeing patients who have had COVID have up to 20% heart damage, and we're seeing higher risk for heart attacks and strokes. We're seeing lots of strokes and lots of blood clots in people who have had COVID. And we're seeing some heart damage even for young people. There was a basketball player last summer who had COVID in the summer and was in the middle of a basketball game. A college player collapsed, and it was related to a post-COVID syndrome. So a lot of us who take care of kids and athletes are very hesitant to clear people to go back to playing sports after they've had COVID. So we're going to be doing more tests, like looking at an echocardiogram, which is an ultrasound of the heart, to see what's going on and if it is safe for them to play ever again. And with kids, we're seeing this condition called multi-system inflammatory syndrome, where the whole body just becomes inflamed and shuts down. So the kids' heart, lungs, kidney function, and their intestines, everything is just kind of shutting down. And our ICU pediatric teams are having to take care of these kids. This is super, super duper rare, but it does happen. So now, those are all the things that's why I recommend the vaccine to my patients, because they happen and I see them every day. So there is not just about death rates is the thing that I wanted to express to you. So now we've got a couple of vaccines that are available. So I want to go through how effective they are. You see a lot of data, 95, 72, all of this information. So I just want to kind of go line by line and talk about the how the studies went and what the data kind of showed. So for Pfizer, they had 36,000 people in their study. 18,000 got the vaccine, 18,000 got a placebo, which means they got like saline, and because we don't know who gets the vaccine and who doesn't when you do a double-blind study. The doctors don't know, the patients don't know. Everyone just comes in and they get a vaccine, and they don't know who gets it. So half got the vaccine, half didn't. And when you looked at against all infections, so what they did was they tested people regularly. So they were trying to see if, even if they didn't have symptoms, they were getting tested. People were just getting tested. So of the patients that were tested that got the vaccine, only 90, so it was effective against all infections by 95%. That's really amazing. And there was a question that was posed to me about the difference between taking 1 or 2 doses. And it's really important to take both doses, because if you only take 1 dose, it's only 52% effective after the first dose. So you have to complete the series for it to really work. Then when we look at effectiveness of preventing hospital stay and ICU stay, it was 75% effective. That's what we call severe infection. And for all the patients that got the vaccine, it was 100% effective against death. Then we look at Moderna. Moderna enrolled 28,000 patients into their study. 14,000 got the vaccine, 14,000 did not. When we look at the effectiveness against all infections, for all patients, it was 94.1% effective in preventing infection. For the 65 and older group, 86.4%. And again, similarly, if you only take 1 dose, it's only 50% effective. Moderna in their study was 100% effective against preventing severe infection, meaning hospital and ICU stay, and 100% against death. The newest vaccine that's been given an emergency use authorization approval is Johnson & Johnson. So they had 40,000 patients enrolled, and against all infections, so that means patients with or without symptoms where they were just testing, it was 72% effective. And for against hospital stay and ICU stay, it was 86% effective, but still 100% effective against death. So all of the COVID vaccines are 100% effective against death. And then they vary a little differently about all infection or severe infection, but they're all good options as far as how good they work. When you compare it to like the flu vaccine, which is pretty good too, flu vaccine is only 40 to 60% effective. And if you compare to the measles vaccine, which we tried to get rid of measles altogether, but we haven't been able to, it's 97% effective after the 2nd dose. So what does that mean in their actual study? So of the 18,000 people who got the vaccine in the Pfizer study, only 8 got COVID during that time. And then of the 18,000 that didn't get the vaccine, 162 got COVID. For Moderna, 14,000 that got the vaccine got COVID, 11 got COVID. And of the 14,000 that didn't get the vaccine, 185 got COVID. So the folks that got the vaccine, it's more effective for them. Johnson & Johnson's data is a little bit different because they looked at 14-day vaccination, and they also looked at 28 days after vaccination, and they looked at severe disease versus not. So I'm going to try to kind of outline all the craziness that the news keeps reporting to us. So I'm just going to use 20,000 because that's easier. So 20,000 received the vaccine, and within the 14 days time period, 116 got COVID, but only 14 got severe disease. And then for in that 14-day period, compared to the folks that didn't get the vaccine, we saw 348 of those patients that didn't get the vaccine got COVID, and 60 were in critical disease. So that's a lot of people that were in the ICU. Then when we looked a little bit further, because we know that Johnson & Johnson works best after the 28 days, of that folks, 66 got COVID after the 28 days, only 5 severe cases. And then 193 that didn't get the vaccine got COVID after that time period, and 34 were severe cases. So still all very effective. Now we're gonna kind of transition over to vaccine fears and facts. So I get a lot of questions every day about, questions, something somebody heard or they looked up online. So I'm going to try to just address those, and hopefully this will answer the questions about how the vaccine works and all that. So first question or thing that I hear sometimes is the vaccine changes your DNA. Okay, so I drew this picture out. I was going to redraw it because it, it looks like a little kindergartner drawing, but my mom told me that, nope, just leave it as it is because it makes sense. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. So what happens when you, what we're doing is it's an mRNA vaccine. So what does that mean? mRNA, that sounds like DNA. Well, it's not DNA. So if you think about DNA, and like if you're thinking about how a house is built, the blueprint for the house is like the DNA. And then for the contractor comes in and tells everything what to build and where it goes. That's the mRNA. So if you can see here for the mRNA vaccine, it doesn't interact with the DNA at all. It stays out here in the cell. So the mRNA comes in and it tells the body how to make those spike proteins that are seen on the COVID virus. So our body learns how to make those little proteins, and then it puts it all around our cells. It makes it and shows on the cells. And then at the point where our cell is done making those proteins, then the mRNA, it dissolves and it goes away. It doesn't stay around. So this cell that your body has, it's got these spike proteins and it's kind of going around in your bloodstream. And then all of a sudden, one of your immune cells comes by and says, wait a minute, what's this? This is not a part of the blueprint. This has to go. So it goes and gobbles up that cell, and then it gets activated. And it says, okay, I know how to get rid of this. I know how to kill it, but I need to make antibodies so that we can fight future invasions. So your cell, your immune cell then makes these antibodies and they're ready to go. Time goes by, you go on your happy way, then all of a sudden, the real COVID virus is somehow entering into your bloodstream. Then the antibodies that you made before, because your body already learned how to do it, it recognizes it. And then it goes tell all of your immune cells, okay, it's time to get help. And immediately you have an antibody army that's ready to fight, and the virus doesn't stand a chance. So that's how the mRNA vaccine works, okay? Now, the Johnson & Johnson one is a little bit different. So instead of just giving the mRNA, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine brings the instructions to your body to make the mRNA. And then when it makes the mRNA over there, we follow this whole same pathway. But so the first steps are a little bit different. So what they did was they took a common cold virus shell, and they took the ingredients out of it, the instructions for the common cold, and then they put the instructions for how to make that mRNA that makes that spike protein on the cell. And then because this shell already knows how to go into your body, it does what a virus naturally would do. It goes in your cell, it takes over the cell, and then it teaches your body to make the mRNA, and then the mRNA teaches how to make the spike protein. Then we go through the same process. So that's the difference between the vaccines. So Johnson & Johnson is not an mRNA vaccine, it's an adenovirus vaccine, because that's the kind of virus that they use to bring the instructions in, versus Pfizer and Moderna are mRNA vaccines. So the next thing, the vaccine causes COVID. So the vaccine does not cause COVID. It can't cause COVID because all that it's bringing is the instructions on how to make the spike protein. It doesn't have any information about how to replicate cells, how to make more virus. None of that is in it. So just again, we just went through here, we have the adenovirus shell with the instructions for the mRNA. Our body makes that mRNA, then we go through the process. Then versus Moderna and Pfizer, we have that mRNA that comes in, it tells the cell how to make the spike protein, and then we get that antibody response in my little kindergartner drawing that we saw earlier. So that's how those work. The vaccine makes you really sick. Okay, yes, these vaccines have a lot of side effects. Pain or redness at the injection site, fatigue. I had a lot. I was really tired after I got my second vaccine. Headache, body aches, chills, nausea, vomiting, dizziness. Sometimes people get swelling under their arms, fever, or swelling at the injection site. But the key thing is the symptoms don't last very long. It's like 1 to 2 days. And then secondly, remember that COVID symptoms can last days to months. And all of the vaccines are 100% effective about preventing death. And some people never really fully recover after the COVID vaccine. So you could potentially have some side effects, or you could not. Maybe you could be one of the lucky people who doesn't have side effects. But the symptoms from the side effects, they don't last very long. The vaccine was developed too quickly. So yeah, let's talk about that. Okay. So you keep hearing on the news and everything. Well, no, yes, it was quick, but we've been studying this for decades. Then the question comes up, well, what do you mean you've been studying this for decades? Like, so did you like make a virus and then like
There you go.
you know, and all of a sudden you make it and now you want to inject everybody? That sounds
Boom.
crazy. Okay. So the virus itself has not been studied for decades. The mRNA technology that's used for the virus has been studied for decades. So years ago, I don't know if you all remember, there was a SARS epidemic that was going around. And we were really scared that SARS was going to come and cause a big old pandemic in the United States. So COVID is a type of SARS virus. It just has a different spike protein. So we've been studying that for years. So when the researchers have been studying how to create something to fight SARS viruses, so all they needed was the instructions for the mRNA spike protein. And then I think it was late spring, because there were so many people that had COVID, they had lots of like samples and stuff. The instructions was released to the whole scientific community. Usually when information like that comes out, the scientists, they keep it to themselves and they take it in a little lab and it's all quiet and they don't want anyone else to beat them to it. But the whole world was working on this at the same time together. So the instructions got released. So scientists were talking together. Governments were pouring money at them so they could actually do the studies. And so all they needed was that little instructions, and then they put it into that mRNA that they knew how to make. And that's why it became so fast in that case. And it's important to know that mRNA vaccines, the technology has also already been used for cancer treatment. So it's not new. We use this kind of technology for certain kind of cancers to trigger the immune system to fight cancer cells too. This is also the vaccine type that we've been using to study Zika and rabies and other kind of viruses. And the other thing that's special about the mRNA vaccines is that it doesn't require like some special ingredient from the, equator rainforest that is so rare. All of the ingredients for it are right there available in the lab. So all of these things happening together, it really pushed the production of the vaccine and the trials to go a lot faster because everything was readily available. It wasn't that there was this conspiracy with the government and all these other countries. That wasn't the case. So there were no Black people in the vaccine trials. There actually were Black people in the vaccine trials. If we look at our total population, for the US, we're at about 12%. And for Pfizer, they had about 9.8%, which I actually think that's pretty good considering our history and how we understand vaccines, and, you know, not just Tuskegee, but just many experimentation that's been done on our community. To get almost 10% of their study to be from Black people, that's huge. Moderna similarly. And then Johnson & Johnson, their vaccine trial was a little bit different because it was a global, it wasn't just here. And in the global participants, 44% of them were from the United States, and they had 14% Black. But again, it was global. So there were a lot of Black people in these trials. And specifically for Moderna, Dr. Corbett was the lead scientist on this vaccine. And she's got a Twitter. She's been going around trying to share information about the vaccine, and she got it herself too. She's talked to Dr. Fauci. She's doing lots of talks and trying to really get information out about the vaccine. I think this was a talk that she was doing for the prison system, trying to encourage folks that are incarcerated to get the vaccine as well. And she also has some, she breaks down kind of like step by step on the Moderna vaccine on YouTube. And I can share this link with folks if they want to watch it. It in itself is a 30-minute talk. But as you can imagine, she was the one, who understands the science, who helped develop the science, the lead scientist. So she has a lot to say about the vaccine. So much that she talked to Bishop T.D. Jakes and answered all his questions, and he got vaccinated. And now his church is a vaccination site. And so yes, there's lots of information out there if you look. So Dr. Corbett is the one that you want to look up if you want more information about the Moderna vaccine. The vaccine contains preservatives and aborted fetal tissue. And these are really hot, important issues for a lot of folks. They want to know what's in the vaccine, right? Okay, so I'm gonna break down what's in the vaccine. So Pfizer and Moderna are really similar. The main ingredient is this mRNA that's made in the lab. That's the molecule that's put together that has the information on how to code that spike protein. That's made in the lab. Then there's like lipids. These are just like greasy molecules that are needed to protect the mRNA so that it can go in your cell. So when you get the vaccine, it's covered in this lipid so it can slide into the cell. And the main ingredient for a main type of lipid is actually the same ingredient in Miralax, polyethylene glycol. So that's the main thing. That's the lipid, Miralax. So that's why when you sign those forms, they ask you if you have an allergy to Miralax, to polyethylene glycol. Mm-hmm. Then there's salts. Salts are needed to help balance the acidity so that when it goes in, it can stay together. And these are just different kind of salts: potassium chloride, sodium chloride. That's just salt. And then sugar, and basically it's just basic table sugar. That's what we call sucrose. This is needed to keep the molecule and everything together when it's when it's being frozen. Moderna, similarly, mRNA, lipids, specifically Miralax, acids, a stabilizer. These are just other ingredients that kind of keep the acids together. And a lot of these things you can actually find in some of the foods that we eat too: salt and sugar. Johnson & Johnson has a few different ingredients. One is that shell that we talked about, the adenovirus shell. Remember, it's not an mRNA, it's a virus shell. So that's in there, that's created in the lab. Citrus acid, that's the same acid that's in fruit. Some salts, alcohol, a type of sugar, and another stabilizer. This is a stabilizer that's used in pudding and ice cream to keep things together. Those are the ingredients. You can look on their website. Everything is very much right there in your face. There's no hidden ingredients. So now let's talk about the fetal cell line thing, because I know there's been a lot of confusion and we don't know, is that okay, not okay? So I want to explain what a fetal cell line is, because Johnson & Johnson did use fetal cell lines in the production of their vaccine. So in the 1960s and 70s, there were cells from 2 elective abortions that were used to create fetal cell lines. So they took a cell in the 1960s and 70s, and then they multiplied it, and then they multiplied it into many ways. And that cell line, that's what we call a cell line, is used to grow viruses and things. That's the same technology that's used for hepatitis A, rubella, and rabies vaccines. So they take this cell line and then they put the virus in it. So in this case, it would be the adenovirus, and that's how they grow it. They grow the virus. And then the virus is inactivated because there's no viral material that can spread, and that's what goes in the vaccine. So there's no abortions being done to make the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. There's no fetal cells in the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The cell line from the 1960s original cell that's been multiplied is being used to grow viral shells. That's what that is. So I think you just have to take that, your religious council, how you feel about that, ask lots of questions about that, and then you can make a decision. But I just wanted to make sure you understand there's no fetal cells and there's no abortions being done to make the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. You can't have the vaccine if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. That's not true. The thing about women who are pregnant or breastfeeding, it's unethical to do a randomized controlled trial where we say, we're going to give this to you and not to you, and you're pregnant and we'll just see what happens to your baby. We don't do any randomized controlled trials on women who are pregnant or breastfeeding. We just don't. What we do is we just gather data afterwards and see if there were any effects. And then once that data information becomes available, that's what we share to the medical community as what's safe or not safe in pregnant women or breastfeeding women. They do studies on animals to see if there was any adverse effects, any effects. And so far, the animal studies have not shown any harmful effects to animals. And then so far in Europe and in CDC in Europe, they've been collecting information for folks who had the vaccine and then they became pregnant, or they found out they were pregnant, but they had already had the vaccine. And so far there's been over 15,000 pregnancies and no effects. So the American College of Obstetrician and Gynecology, they do recommend that pregnant women consider vaccination and also breastfeeding too, just for protection of the baby and mother. It's my turn, but I should wait for more people to be vaccinated first. Well, let's talk about that. So herd immunity is super duper important, because without herd immunity, we will still be in this pandemic, because that's what's happening right now. So when we don't have herd immunity, that means most people have not been vaccinated and are available to be infected. So all of the red people are the contagious people, and all the yellow people are the folks that could potentially get infected. So then when you start to vaccinate people, it really spreads out the number of people that can be infected and reduces the number of people that are contagious. But then when you reach herd immunity, where the majority of people are vaccinated, then your chances for getting sick goes way down. And we're already seeing that. The new cases are dropping down, especially in places where there's been a lot of vaccination. Israel just put out a lot of information about how great it's doing in their community, and they're really bringing down the overall rates of new cases. So it does, we are seeing that. So that's one thing. The second thing is, when you have a lot of people who are contagious and not vaccinating, it gives the virus a chance to become smart and mutate. So the flu virus does this every year. It mutates and changes, so the outer covering of the virus, your body doesn't recognize. And then as a result, the vaccine doesn't work. So those spike proteins on the top of on the outside of the vaccine, that's what our immune system, when you have been vaccinated, recognizes to go get more information. But if the virus mutates and it changes the way that those spike proteins look, that's how we get a new mutation. And then your body doesn't know how to react to that and doesn't have antibodies ready to go. So just comparing the three vaccines that we have right now, the Pfizer vaccine does protect against the Britain variant, but it's not as effective against the South African variant. Moderna is showing protection right now against the Britain and the South African variant. And J&J, remember the whole study was global. So that one does have pretty good protection against both as well, because that's what was studied from the beginning anyways. So we want to keep it this way. We don't want these viruses to become smarter, and then now that the body doesn't recognize, even if you've had the Moderna. So we need people to get vaccinated as soon as possible. If it's your turn, consider going for it. The vaccine is really a tracking device. There's no tracking material in the liquid. It's like I said, what the ingredients are. There's not really an ability to inject something through that small of a needle or draw it up in the needle. The greatest tracking device that we have, a lot of us are holding it in our hands. That is a tracking device. Okay, so if you have other questions, maybe I didn't address, I'd be glad to have you reach out to me about the vaccine. I can, and if I don't know the answer, I know a lot of folks who are experts in this who do know the answer. So what I want to talk now, just for the last few minutes, is just about vaccine injustices. And this is how I became, I pushed myself to try to reach out to the NAACP and try to really support and just really explain what's going on and try to find how we can really support the community. So last year, we had an unfortunate death from Dr. Susan Moore. She's a physician who was in the community of physicians that I'm a part of. And basically, she documented her whole experience while she was in the hospital and the racism that she experienced. She cried out to get help. We were trying to find allies. And she told the physicians that were treating her that she was not ready to be discharged because she was very ill and she didn't feel safe. She went home, and within 12 hours, she became gravely ill again, and then just went to a different hospital and then was immediately admitted to the ICU. Within 2 weeks, she did pass away. And COVID, it doesn't matter for us, you know, if you have the knowledge of a physician or not. The reality is we just don't do as well when we get COVID. So even this doctor who had the information about the latest treatments was denied that, and she passed away. When we look at death disparities, death rates for Latino people are 21% higher than statewide. For Pacific Islanders, 31% higher than statewide. For Black people, 7% higher than statewide. And then when we look at communities where the median income is less than 40,000, it's 38% higher than statewide. But yet, when you look at who actually gets the vaccine, that's not who's getting it. So, you know, Black people are only gotten 4%, Latinos almost 8%. And then the question is, well, why? Why are we not getting the vaccine, even though we're the ones who are at higher risk from dying? And there's lots of reasons. Where the vaccines have been located, this, you know, the need to have computer access, the ability to answer your phone or look at a text message or leave your job immediately for vaccine, having transportation because the vaccines are not being in our communities. So that has to change. And that's what we're pushing for. And who's eligible to be vaccinated right now? The county opened up a bunch of tiers. So not just 65 and up. If you are working childcare, or if you take care of someone at home, if you're in law enforcement, if you do food agriculture, if you work in warehouse, we're vaccinating those folks today. And then as of Monday, actually, the county is opening up anyone who has a medical condition over the age of 16 for the Pfizer vaccine, and over the age of 18 for the Moderna vaccine will be eligible for that vaccine. So it's going to open wide up. So it's really important for us to know where we can get vaccinated. So the NAACP Vaccine in My Neighborhood campaign, they're going to have the latest information. Whenever we in the medical community get information about where the vaccines are going to be and how to access them, they're going to know first. So we're going to have that information about what's going to be happening in Meadowview, Oak Park, and Del Paso Heights, and we'll continue to advocate to keep vaccine clinics ongoing in there. And then, like what was stated earlier, I did work with my medical group to secure vaccine slots for our community, for communities that are underserved. And this is a private phone number. You can also connect with the Vaccine in My Neighborhood, and they'll help connect you too. We don't want this phone number to end up on Facebook, because we know what happens. Like, folks that are in Folsom will get that number and drive all the way to Meadowview and be there, and our community won't get vaccinated. So there's opportunities. My turn is the Sac County's online registration, but as you can, for some of you who have tried to use it, it's like the vaccines get posted and then you have to immediately sign up or you won't get a chance. But that is also a place that you can register for vaccines as well. And then it's also important to know that you don't necessarily have to get your second dose at the same site. The key thing is to hold on to your card. So if you get vaccinated, take a picture of your card just in case you lose it, and just make sure you take that wherever you're getting vaccinated for your second shot. And that is all I have to say today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bianca. That was a lot that you had to say. That was great information. Thank you so much for your presentation and for sharing. And we do have time for questions. So I do want to take questions. I posted that you can post your questions in the chat. We also will take live questions if you want to raise your hand. And for those people who are on the phone, I will acknowledge you as well. There were a couple of questions that had already come in, so I wanted to make sure to ask those. The first question was, what about people who are homebound? How do they get vaccinations?
Right, so that is super complicated, right? Because a lot of the vaccine sites they require you to come. So I would recommend that, and as for our community, if there's someone who's homebound and really doesn't have that ability, please let's try to connect with the Vaccine in My Community, because I do know in my own group, there have been some docs who have personally taken vaccine to people. And so, and similarly, we're planning to do some outreach to homeless. So it's really impossible for the homeless population to come to one of our clinics, obviously. So we're trying to make ways so that we can take the vaccine to them. So that's going to be happening.
That is wonderful. We did establish, as I mentioned earlier, that NAACP, it's our health line, and that number is posted in the chat. It is 916-750-5625. I'll do it again, 916-750-5625. You can send people there to find out about vaccine clinics in the area and also to answer questions. We definitely want you to spread resources to people where they can get accurate information. We had someone who's had their hand up for a while. Their screen says LG Aristo, and I think I know who it is, but I'm not sure, so I'm not gonna call a name. But if you'd like to, you can unmute yourself and ask your question to Dr. Bianca right now. All right. While they're doing that, I think I'll ask the second question, and then when they're ready, we'll go back to callers online.
Yeah, it might have been me.
Oh, yes, it's you. Go right ahead.
Okay. I have a couple questions, Doctor, and thank you for that presentation. My name is Larry Harris. I haven't seen very much information in the newspapers or the TV stations. Shouldn't they be helping to steer people at what age group is being vaccinated and who is vaccinated? I think they would be great for mass communications on helping everybody to get vaccinated, because like I said, there is some problems with older people in the communications with cell phones and that sort of thing. So should they be included in our communications? And I guess the other part of my question is there anything every day that you suggest people take before COVID or even after you get the COVID shot, as far as general good health herbs or vitamins?
So let me answer the second question first, and then we'll go back to the first one. So there's been some thought or maybe some developing evidence that vitamin D supplementation can actually help us with our immune system and with COVID. It's just there's no like study like the ones that they did for the vaccine. So typically, a lot of us are low in vitamin D because we get vitamin D from our diet. That's in things like eggs and salmon, and then also from the sun. And I guess with our skin tone, sometimes it makes it difficult for the sun to penetrate through, and we don't absorb as much sun. So if you're wanting to take a supplement, I don't think it would be harmful to take vitamin D. But just make sure that you communicate that with your physician, because sometimes people can take too much and that's not good. So you'll want to make sure that level gets checked at some point. And then in regards to the media, I think the media has their own agenda. To be honest, I just like I was just interviewed the other day to talking about something on the news, and my words got twisted. It's just I don't think we can wait or trust the media to get our information out. And yes, they should be, and I think that that's what should be happening. But I think that I don't think they think this is a problem. So I just don't think we can wait for them.
Okay, thank you, doctor. Appreciate it.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question, which was, can you speak to the involvement of Black or Africans in the science and the discovery of vaccines? I think you touched on that a little bit, but if you could just repeat it, I think that would help. Were there Black people in the studies, and were there Black people in the development or the discovery of the vaccine?
So specifically, we talked about Moderna being led by Dr. Corbett. And, I imagine that she had Black people on her team as well, because that was really an important aspect. She talked about the reason that she wanted to lead this project was she wanted to fight inequities, especially in the COVID vaccine deaths. So, I mean, I could probably find out how many. I would have to look up on Google or something to find out who else was on her team. In regards to, I believe the Johnson & Johnson, since it was like a global vaccine, I think there were more people of color involved with developing it. But I think on all levels, the mRNA level, the trials, there were Black people involved on all levels. And I explained earlier that in the trials, so we are a 12% population. The Moderna had about 10% actual of their trial was Black people. The Pfizer had 10% as well, and the J&J had 14% of their trial population that was in the trial. So they tried their best to meet our national average, which is the 12%.
Wonderful. Our next question is, what happens if people get two different shots? So maybe if they did get the first shot they got was Moderna, and the second time it's being offered, it's only, Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson.
Yes, so we don't know yet. In the US, we don't recommend that. We recommend you stay with the same brand just because we know this works. In Europe, though, they've been kind of like haphazard giving it to whoever. So I think we'll have some information from them as far as if it works the same. For if you mix Moderna and Pfizer, we'll probably find out that information in a few months. In regards to getting Moderna first and then J&J, that has actually been said that that's okay. So if you have Moderna and then later get the J&J, that's probably okay. There's nothing bad happens to you though. It's just, we don't have like a test like they did with the thousands of people where they say how effective it is. They watch them for this many months, and then this is how we know what the effects are. So right now, we just don't have that information yet. We know that it won't harm you, but we just won't know how good the vaccine will work if you mix the vaccines.
And there, I think I heard you say that they're not two different types of vaccines. So the Moderna, the first dose, and the Moderna, the second dose, they're actually the same
Yes,
vaccine.
that is
It's
the
not
same.
like-
You're getting the same vaccine twice.
Great, great. And I also think with the medical processes, like when you call Mercy, when you sign up for the first one, don't they schedule you for the second one as well?
Yes, Mercy will automatically schedule you for both doses. At some of the community clinics, you'll get scheduled on your way out for the second dose. And then I think for like the pharmacies and My Turn, they just tell you when you can schedule the second dose, and then you would just go through the system again. So it all varies based on where you get it. It doesn't matter where you get your second dose though. They're all the same vaccine. First dose and second dose is the same vaccine.
Great, thank you. I want to give a chance to some of our callers who call in who may not be able to signal me in the chat or just speak up, but you could unmute yourself now and ask your questions.
Hi, doctor. Thank you so much for this information. It was very vital. I did get my shot, but I was wondering about it, but I had it and I'm glad I did. But it was very vital. And I'm wondering, I have two questions. One would be, in your opinion, or in the doctor's opinions you've been working with in your sub-community there, do you feel the African Americans that are not getting the shots because of the fear of the shot? And also, or is it because of lack of access? Because they'll tell us it's lack of access. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are. And then I think, Val, maybe for you too, NAACP point, do you guys feel that there's lack of access or more so, fear? And then the second part is that you really, Dr. Bianca, you really knocked this out of the park, honestly. And I'm just wondering, how can we get a mini version of that and put it on Facebook to the people that need to hear it? Because there's no way I can even try to present what you just said to people and convince people, in any way, shape, or form, and convince them to, at least think a little harder about, taking a shot. And we really, we know there are issues are out there and we need to tell people. So can you do a mini version?
I could try.
I think that's great. I'm going to say two things on that. One is all of our town halls are recorded. So this presentation has been recorded. It's going to go up on our SAC NAACP YouTube channel. So you can direct people there. And yes, Dr. Bianca doesn't know it, but I have hold of her now, and I have plans for her to be on Tea Time with Plachettes and in the Sacramento Observer and on the KDEE 97.5. So we want to get this word out there to the community the best way. But you all know word of mouth is really what makes the difference for people making decisions in our community. So you all being able to hear what she said, and to diffuse some of those fears and myths out in the community and direct them to resources like Dr. Bianca. That's really what I think is going to make the difference for our community. So thank you for your questions, Laura. And I would say is it lack of access or is it fear that's preventing us from getting vaccines? I would say it's both, but I'll let Dr. Bianca speak for herself.
Yeah, I agree totally. It's both. It's fear because the information is not being shared, and people go to their doctor and they say, well, I don't know about the vaccine, and then the doctor says, well, you're lost, right? They don't take the time to try to explain, and sometimes honestly it's all new. They haven't done the research themselves. So I think that's the reality of it. So part of it is lack of information and also just, fear. But then the second part is access. But I think that my problem has been that the medical community has said we aren't getting vaccinated because of vaccine hesitancy, that as the sole reason. And that's the problem that I have. I think if someone decides that they don't want to get the vaccine because they decide, that's one thing. But if someone wants to get the vaccine and can't because they can't access it, that's another thing. So
Right.
I think what we're trying to focus on is making sure that that access is available for folks that want to get it. And then people who are not quite ready, we also are going to be working together to provide education and try to give them more resources. Yesterday at the community clinic, the one of the members of the board from the Association of Black Nurses approached me and said, I'm giving you my card because we Black nurses want to collaborate with Black doctors to do community education. So when we have these upcoming clinics and availability, they want to put it out there. They want to talk to people. They want to connect to make sure that we know about the vaccine. So I think it's both, but I don't want the first to be an excuse to not allow us to have access.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
One of the things that, why is it sometimes problematic if you say, people say, oh, I know somebody, she's younger and, she's not over 65 and she got vaccinated. I don't, it must not be being done fairly. And, or we want to ask people, well, how did you get it? Why did you get it? What kinds of things come up around that? What are we really asking people when we say that? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so I think, okay, so here's what's happened. Our community, we're and typically communities of color, we're pretty honest people, and we basically want to make sure our elders and folks who really need it get a resource before we do. But that's not the case for all communities. Some people feel that they are privileged and should be front of the line, even if it's not their turn. So it's one thing to be younger and get the vaccine because you fit in a tier. That's fine. But then it's another thing to get the vaccine because you lied, right, about your true exposure risk, right? So I think that's part of it. And then there's been a lot of vaccine clinics where there were lots of no-shows and then there weren't systems put in place, and younger people who were friends of people got access to the vaccine before others. And there's a lot of people in our community who want the vaccine but can't get it, but then they hear of someone else who didn't need it but were able to get it. So I think that's a problem. But now, as of Monday, pretty much everybody will be eligible to, it's not going to be so much of an age thing. It's going to be occupation and medical conditions, which I think really makes more sense anyways. I think we were automatically put at a disadvantage when we said 65 and up. I think it should have always been some medical conditions to start with, to be honest, because as you see, for us, it doesn't matter if you're 65 or if you're 30, you're still at higher risk than someone who might not be in our community. So I think it was just unfortunate overall, but they had to draw the line and make some kind of way to ration out the vaccines. I think it put us at a disadvantage.
And in some ways, when you're asking that person, are you asking them to share their medical conditions or their medical history?
So now, no, because the questions that should just be asked are, do you have a chronic medical condition? Or what's your occupation, or do you work in one of these fields? When you sign up now going forward, there's not going to be a lot of scrutiny. There's not going to be checking your ID and prove that you work here and all that. It's not going to be possible. That would be too much work. They're just going to ask you if you fit one of these medical categories or if you fit one of these work categories, and you can get vaccinated. It's not going to matter what age you are.
Great. Welcome. I'm going to do a last call for questions. Are there any other questions out there?
This is Leon Guidry from 97.5 Radio in Sacramento. I have a question.
Oh, yes, Leon, please ask.
First of all, Dr. Roberts, and I've been on a lot of medical Zoom calls, by far yours, outstanding, and everybody on the call knows it, very comprehensive. But you speak of lack of access, fear, hesitancy. There's another component that on all the calls that I've been on, not examined. And that's the variable of trust, because your presentation, very textbook, makes a lot of sense, makes a lot of, just makes a lot of sense from a textbook standpoint. But if you can't trust the government or big pharma, then what do you what do you say?
Yeah, and that's so true. And I think it's not just pharma. I think it's medicine too, right? It's pharma, it's medicine, and it's government. And I mean, what have they done to prove that we can trust them, right? Like that's the reality. That is. And even still, even if the vaccine is great and good for us, there's still people that will benefit, right, from us getting vaccinated. And it's hard to trust people that are just out there just for their own personal gain. I think what I try to explain is that I'm looking at what is the health of how do we protect our community? How do we protect the health of our community? And there's no way that I can visualize or see our community being protected without most of us getting vaccinated, like we talked about with the herd community. So herd immunity. I don't think that I mean, I don't trust big pharma and I don't trust the government, and I don't really think that's going to change. And in medicine, there's a lot of things that I don't trust, which is why I'm the health equity chair for our Sacramento Valley Medical Society, because I'm trying to help educate doctors and medical professionals about our history and what they're still doing that impacts our care with bias and racism. So I think we have a long way to go before there's ever trust, to be honest. And I just I don't know how we will overcome that from the pharma or government standpoint unless we are in those positions. We have to be in those leadership positions. We have to be on those pharmacy boards. We have to be a part of that, just like a lot of us are now in medicine, and we're trying to improve the trust of medicine.
And that is what makes your presentation so outstanding, because you just gave me your truth. You didn't try and sway me. You just gave me your truth. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, it is the truth. I mean, there's no reason for me to lie. Like, that's the truth. I mean, I try to be honest, and I think that for us, our community, all we want is the truth. We don't want you to sugarcoat things and say, well, it's not that bad. No, tell me how bad it is. Like, so I can prepare myself, right? Like if I told you, oh, it's just a little nausea with the vaccine, you'll be like, nah, I saw my cousin. He was over there having chills. Nah.
And I think that's the visual we want to take away. Yes, thank you.
We just need the truth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to say one other thing, Doctor. A couple things. One is that one really convinced me if I was not going to take it, which had some ups and downs, but I did. It was then when you said it was 100%, it will 100% protect you from dying. I don't think I've ever heard that, anywhere. That conversation, those facts have never been spoken into where I could hear it or read it. And I do research. I'm not a medical researcher, but I just love to read and find things out. That's powerful. That was a powerful statement that you made. And I just want to say the other thing is, I think our community is not. We're within the community, the greater community, and looking at kids go back, play ball, looking at kids coming back to school, looking at folks hanging out, doing different things. You get to a point that you don't know I'll say myself, I got to a point where I didn't know what to believe and what not to believe. So I just sort of, and there was no shot anyway, but it was very difficult. I did all the mask and everything, but I was really at a point, what's real? Because, at one point we didn't know what was real coming from the White House, right? So what's real? What's real going on here? What's the real truth here? Because I know some of these crazy people that would not, not putting their mask on and, spitting in people's faces. That was weird. But I'm looking at football players and the NBA and people playing ball. So I had some questions, and then the
What
shot
you
came
want?
out. Then I'm like, I got to make a decision. And
You
here's
ate already, right?
and here's where the decision came from. I'm like, I got to make the decision. And here was
What do
the
you want,
thought
Earl?
was that I still
Right,
don't
we
know.
gotta go into
So I
the-
went with it. But I think our community is looking at those things as
Earl,
well
what do you
as
want?
other issues that are on there as to what we should do. One last thought, because it's
Laura,
really hard to
Laura,
see
I'm
the
gonna have
future.
to stop you because I actually know that Dr. Bianca has another meeting to get to.
Okay.
And we are
Well,
at
I just like to, let me
12:02.
just say this. Let me say this, Dr. Bianca, if you could do a 15-second thing, the reason I say that, Val, rather than listen to the whole presentation,
Laura,
'cause we
Laura,
won't.
I would appreciate you respect her time, please. And you can
Okay,
relay your
not a
question
problem.
later on, and I'll relay it
I'll
back.
chat it to
The
you. Thank
answer
you.
back to you. But
Thank you.
Dr. Bianca has
Do you
been
want to
wonderful.
email
Thank you.
me? You can email me too.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Why don't you put your
Thank
email
you.
in the
Sorry about
chat,
that.
Dr. Bianca. So from here, again, just thank you, Dr. Roberts, so much for your presentation and for galvanizing all the Black
Amen.
doctors. She's also, we've worked with her and we've worked with Betty. So our health committee has worked to set up a meeting this afternoon with the Black doctors and the governor's office. So we'll be looking at taking this model statewide to help all people of
He's
color,
doing my door hangers.
get access. And Rory, I like the door hanger idea. It's not dead. One avenue closed. We'll look for another avenue for that one. But our action items following this are just continued learning and spreading accurate information. I shared that health line with you. You know, fear thrives in chaos and the lack of information and education. So we really want to make sure that we remove that fear and we empower our communities to make the informed decisions that are best for themselves. It also comes from sharing our stories and our experiences, as Laura Hammond mentioned earlier. So we do want to hear those stories. We need to get real people's examples out there of whether they did have chills, whether they did experience fatigue, or whether maybe they didn't experience anything. That's going to build that trust, and that's going to build that experience that we can say what's working and what's not working. I know there's a lot of distrust out there. Let's say, oh, people in the medical field, they're getting paid to tell us this. You've got to know that many of them are not. It's our jobs, but we went into these jobs because we wanted to protect the community, because we wanted to tell you the truth and to see what was happening. And we're taking it ourselves. So to test it out and see if it's good so that we can recommend it. And my last thing says if you share those stories, you please send them.
Valerie, real quick, do I need to make a motion to go into overtime prior to adjourning the meeting?
And we are ending right now because it's 12:05. With that, my last thing was send any of your information to that health line and we will be here to help. So thank you all. And I turn it back over
Well
to
done.
Danielle to Amy.
Best I've heard.
Thank you. Everybody, thank you, Dr. Roberts, for coming aboard.
Thank you,
This was
Dr.
wonderful. This was great. It was excellent. Also, this is Valerie's birthday weekend. She's 21 now, so you guys all
Happy
wish her
birthday, Val. Happy birthday, Val.
I know.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm going to adjourn at this time. I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 12:06. Please record that, Secretary. And thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
you guys want to
Stacy.
hang out in the chat room now? We've officially, you guys can chop it up and, until Stacy sets you guys down.
Hi,
Thank you,
it's
Doctor.
Stacy. I just wanted to make sure everyone can see how to become a member through NAACP today. So you can sign up. The information is on the screen. All right.
Wow, that was powerful.
Yeah, it was. I mean, man, that was great. Now we can kind
That
of
was
chop it
powerful.
up, chat it up. But
Yeah, she's so real.
I was glad to be able to get my little shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hesitant, but I got it because I had to protect my son. But man, she just answered so many questions that I researched for months and couldn't get.
Yeah, she just came across very,
Mhm.
very real, authentic, and she
Wow.
knows the subject matter like the
Right.
back of her hand, and
Mhm.
she could talk to us about it in conversational
Right.
kind of like she's our sister or aunt or something
Talk
like
to
that.
us and not at us.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And I feel
Yeah,
so
that was great.
yeah.
That
It
was
was
Yeah, I
good.
great.
think that's
You guys,
a
good job.
powerful.
Good
Yeah, I
job.
think that's a powerful
Yeah, hey,
message.
also, we're still live on Facebook, and I want to have our audience out there, please join the NAACP. We are in need
Yeah.
of more members. We
Green.
want to continue doing what we're doing. And just look us up at sacnaacp.com right there. And there's our phone number if you need to text us. But just go on there. It's $30 a year. And we really need your support and your help. And if you can afford to be a lifetime member, it's $750. So let's just make this happen and kind of keep it going.
You're
But
so right. You
she was excellent, man. I was just,
excellent.
yeah, she put it
Wow.
she put it down. I mean, I wish a lot of people could hear why we should get it.
Mm-hmm. And when she wasn't like overselling anything, you know what I mean? Like you make your own mind up. But here are the facts. Here's your information that you're not probably getting and you need to know to make your own mind up.
Mm-hmm.
She's ferocious. I think I loved it. I love it. I loved it. So thank you guys. Thanks, Ardell. That was a good thing. This meeting was excellent.
Okay, all right, I gotta sign off. You guys take it easy and be
All right,
safe.
I'll talk to you guys later.
All right,
So
bye-bye.
wonderful. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye all.
Okay.
Bye.